Hey guys, it's Brendan Borman, and we are back for another 270 video. Today is a special video. We're going to be looking at the World Cup tournament that is going on inside the 270 Lounge, and we have a very special guest with us today. A couple guests, actually. We may see some guest appearances, but we've got the one and only Jason Casey. How's it going today, Jason?
Hey, I've had a pretty good day so far, man. Thanks for having me on your stream. I think it's my first official appearance, or at least my first in-face appearance on your YouTube channel, which has millions of views.
Millions, literally. No, hit the 400 subscriber mark yesterday. So.
They're coming. Oh man.
But yeah,
I'm not going to take too long on this, but how many members are we up to in the group so far now? Are we up to 10,000?
We are not. We are close. We are at 9,500. We did lose a couple today, and we gained a couple today. But we are going to celebrate that 10,000 mark with a special. I know 270 themselves are going to make some kind of special post. And of course,
it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's super.
This has been a long year. There's been a lot of twists and turns and lots of events that have occurred, a lot of growth in the lounge. I just joined at the beginning of this year in March. And I think there were only 2,000 something, maybe at the most 3,000.
I just joined a Reddit page yesterday that was created in 2012 of 270, and the game hadn't even been out that long. So I think it was like they were excited about it, and they had 200 members, and I recruited like 30 or so to the lounge yesterday from that Reddit group. So, and we're always trying to grow the game, and there obviously going to be some big changes coming, but one of the best things about the lounge.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say one of the best things about the lounge, in my opinion, is like not everybody, but the hardcore people who put these community events on. And I know, you've come up with some tournament ideas. I've hosted some, but Anderson Freire, who hosts this World Cup tournament, this is the World Cup number 4. Is that right?
Yeah. So you were saying, it turns out we were going to say the same thing. You just you just started first. I was going to say there's a lot of things that have changed. There's a lot of things that in the community that have grown. But kind of what's cool about it is there's a lot of things that have stayed the same, a lot of consistency. Kind of like, it reminds me of like the Atlanta Braves back in the 90s. You know, you always have your Chipper Jones, you always have your Andrew Jones, you always have your Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux. And every now and then, they sign a big exciting new free agent, a Fred McGriff or whatever. But for the most part, you got those big names that keep you coming back. Anderson is one of those. I remember the first match I ever streamed actually was for the very first World Cup. It was a semifinal match, and it was between Lerte and Rick Whitmer, and Lerte won. And that was the first match I ever streamed. 15 minutes before that match, I had Stephon on Skype explain to me how it works, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't think I could do it. And I got my phone next to the computer and like called Rick for a pregame interview and stuff. And I was really excited. It was, it's the World Cup. Lerte ended up, I think they ended up calling that a draw in the World Cup final at that time. They had a glitch between him and Daniel, that famous double ballot glitch that we used to have all the time. Then the second World Cup, that's the one I went undefeated and ran all the way through to the tournament final. And
got Lerte again, right?
Yep, I had the epic. Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
And then season 3 happened back in September, and Stephon ran up against Tossin in the final, and that was when Tossin was just steamrolling everybody that he played, and I think he won the final pretty handily. I streamed that one too. So this is the 4th edition. Every one of them has been exciting, and this time we had some growth. It used to be 32 players, 8 groups of 4. Now it's 8 groups of 6, so 48 players.
48. Quick math. There you go.
And even then, there was no watering down of the competition. Every group was absolutely loaded full of good players, and it was so the top 3 of each 6 advanced, and none of those were easy. There are some big names that didn't make it to the top 3 of their groups.
We're going to go through that. Yeah, we're going to go through that, and just real fast though, I do want to say that you actually had a part in a roundabout way in this World Cup as far as the seeding and how the groups were established. So not officially, but Anderson did use your power rankings to kind of place players into tiers, right? And so that was
so I've always loved this tournament. I've been very excited about it, from streaming it to participating in it, to watching all the finals and commenting. And because of that, I had a lot of conversations with Anderson, and we grew kind of close, as close as you can get to someone from the opposite hemisphere of the world. Yeah, he's let me take like a minor role in helping him to design the tournaments, and just like a couple of logistical things. And one of them was that he used to put the players into pots. Well, he always puts them into pots, but he used to separate the pots based on their all-time leaderboard standings. And an example of why that's bad is Christina Grace Wheeler, who's a really good player. She's improved a lot, but she's about to pass me on the all-time leaderboard because she plays a lot of games. And I don't think anybody logically, if you're going to separate the players into groups, that you would, put her ahead. So, just all-time wins is not really good.
I thought you were going to take that to a whole nother level. I thought you were going to say, man, come on, guys, Eugene V. Debs, I've beat him like 50 times in a row. My name's Jason Casey, and I approve this message. How many times have you beaten Eugene in a row? It's quite a few.
It's a lot. I'll say the player that I have the most trouble against is Troy Moore, and I don't think he's in the top 50 all-time wins, or if he is, it's barely. So all-time wins isn't the best parameter for it. Some people play a lot online in public lobby, some don't. And, the competition that you find there is not the same as the competition you get in a the matches where you're inviting players to from the lounge tournaments. Those don't count to your win totals. And I'm actually excited because what's that?
Sorry, you track all your games where you play off like a coded record, like the RHL, or where you send codes. Do you have any kind of record?
Oh no, but I have a pretty good memory, especially with the losses. I remember them all pretty like they devastate me, so I remember them all. But no, I can make a pretty good guess.
I've played 721 coded matches since February the 1st. I keep track on an Excel spreadsheet.
You locked them. Okay. But anyways, moving back to what we're talking about. So we decided to separate the pots this time by power ranking instead of by all-time wins. I only report the power rankings. Don't get it twisted. I don't make the power rankings. I do vote. I had one of the 37 votes of all the people who voted for the power rankings this time. Yep. So you played just as much of a part in separating the pots as I did. But it ended up being a much more even draw this time. If you look at all the groups, every group had like 2 really good studs, and then 2 guys that might have been somebody to throw a wrinkle into the pecking order, and then two players who were relatively new or up and coming.
I'm just sharing my screen here so you can see some general information I can tab over. But yeah, keep talking. So the pods, like you were talking, this was an expansion. So we had more players. And with that, the tiebreaker rules, from the past, that was something that had to be tweaked just a little bit. I know you can touch on that in just a second. But I know time zones matter with this. Obviously, it's advantageous to advance to the knockout round. So doing well in your group, just like, soccer, you think of like the World Cup. And I'm not a soccer fan, so, but I do understand this from watching previous World Cups. So.
Right. So it is like the World Cup, except now there's 3 players advanced from each group, and that creates 24 players that go to the knockout stage, and that doesn't fit evenly into a bracket. So we came up with a system where all of the number 1 seeds, everybody who wins their group, automatically goes into the round of 16, and all the 2s and 3s are going to match up against each other. And we also set it up to where the 2nd and 3rd seed from each group are on the opposite side of the bracket from the 1 seed. So if there was a situation where the 2 best players or the 2 hottest players in the tournament both ended up in the same group, they could match with each other in the finals still.
Cool. That took a lot of thought process. That was cool.
Yeah. And I kind of like the balance that we were able to create with it. I also like how it turned out. There were a lot of surprises. I remember I saw your prediction video. I agreed with a lot of the things that you were saying in your prediction video for the most part. And I got to say, there's a lot of people that really surprised us. Are you ready to move on and start talking about the results from the groups?
For sure. Do you want me to go to the groups?
That's the screen that I have on my computer right now. So I can see it. Yeah, it's probably good for you to show the viewers as well. You want to just start with Group A and go all the way down just quickly, maybe 30 seconds to a minute on each group?
Sounds perfect.
For sure. So Group A was one that was I thought like a coin flip. Like there were a lot of really good players there and a lot of players that I had a hard time choosing between. Even Reddy Septiana, who ended up finishing dead last with negative points. His username is John Cusack. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. I played him a lot of times, and he's beat me once or twice, and there was a lot of good matches. And I remember thinking he might be a wild card in that group. And I thought it was one of those groups that might end up being like all the players have 2 or 3 wins, and it ends up being like lots of tiebreakers. But David was able to win all 5 matches apparently, and then a lot of the matches between the other players didn't end up getting played. So what we have is Rick finishing 2nd with 3 wins. And Jeff Ray, he finishes 3rd with only 1 win, and he was tied with James. So either he played James directly and beat him, or
I think that's what happened.
Okay, yeah, they probably played each other for the spot.
Yeah, and I will say I nailed that prediction. I predicted David Robinson to win.
Nice. David's tough. He adopted the Old South to AA strategy. He usually goes with Michelle Obama, and he's got really good at it. And whenever I play him now, I usually find myself thinking like, do I want to have like another long drawn out AA battle, or do I want to try something else? And just because I can feel the anxiety with I can already feel it right now. I think we're on the same half of the bracket, he and I.
We are again. Well, that means I'm on your half of the bracket. Well, that sucks.
Oh, you are actually, yeah. Because if you win, then you play David.
Spoiler alert, man! I just okay. So and I will say that David, he and I have played many matches. There's a couple matches on the YouTube channel you can look up, and I always feel like I'm gonna lose, but I always win. Just like I play you, and I have these same kind of battles, and I always lose. So it's interesting how these players match up against each other. But all 3 are great players.
It takes us one time though.
All it takes is one, exactly. Looking at Group B, I think this is where we had one of the biggest surprises. Yeah.
Shocking.
So you see George Fry, not in the top 3. He only played 3 games. I'm wondering if he maybe lost a couple critical games and couldn't win, or what happened there.
So I spoke to Bryce. Bryce was really excited that he advanced out of his group because he was in the group with 3 tough players, Eric, George, Daniel. And congratulations, we're in order, right? Congrats to Bryce. He stepped his game up big time. There was a couple months ago he was talking about quitting the game. He was discouraged, frustrated, and now look at him. He's advancing on to the finals, or the knockout stage of the World Cup. So congrats, Bryce. I think what Bryce said that happened was Bryce beat Eric, and Eric beat George. And even if George and Bryce didn't play, but even if George had beaten Bryce, it would have created a 3-way tie, and George would have still lost out because he just lost to Eric York so badly, something like that.
Gotcha. Well, I've heard one
So
thing that the game does not end unless Eric York wants it to end. So, and Daniel Smith come out on the top of the group. He won a World Cup, hasn't he, before?
yes, so in the first one, he and Lerte, they decided to just call it a draw after the double ballot.
So man, he just turned. So this tournament does something for him. He just turns his game on. So pretty cool. I know Dennis Muxlow didn't make it, but he's a heck of a player.
I imagine. So it looks like he played all 5 of his games and he lost. He lost to all the 4 players ahead of him. I imagine all 4 of those were pretty close games. Although, if you make one mistake in the opening, it might snowball and turn into a blowout. But even then, I'm sure that whatever state group that he might have been fighting for at the beginning or whatever was probably really closely contested, and he barely lost out. I can't see him losing badly to all 4
but
of those
if you take the EVs 10-19 and you divide it by 5, that's pretty close to. That's pretty close to.
Only 200 each.
Yeah, he wasn't out of it. He could have one really bad one or something. But
maybe.
Looking at, go ahead.
Group C, Bart Childers wins, Richard second, and surprisingly, Trevor third over Javier. All due respect to Will Vanisdale and Brandon Barker. They're good players. I played both of them. I got respect for both of them. But the players that they were matched with, really, really tough. I would have thought Bart Javier toss up, Richard Gadd third, Trevor fourth. But this one ended up in a 3-way tie as well. And Javier would have needed to win his last match, but it ended up not being played because it was not necessary. He, Richard, and Trevor all went 1-1 against each other. And among those matches, Javier lost really badly to Richard Gadd because he said he made a really bold steal attempt early that got blocked, and he just ended up losing really badly. And I have those games a lot. And because he lost so badly to Richard, and his game against Trevor was close, he couldn't have won the tiebreaker if he had pulled into a tie with Richard and Trevor. So that's how we got there. And Trevor advances. Congrats, Trevor. That's a big accomplishment. Trevor is the one who's running that NCAA tournament that everybody's so heavily involved in, and it's been really, really fun.
Oh, for sure. He's a great commissioner, and he's very involved in the community. So it's good to see players like that have success. You don't want to play favorites, when you're, as a non-bias. We all have friends and people, we get to know in this community, but it's good to see Trevor do well.
What I like is to see so many players that were new after we had already joined the lounge and after I had already joined the lounge and became established and had my learning curve and my arc, and I got established, and then started seeing these new players come in. It felt like a different generation, and then even after that, another generation of players have joined, and Trevor was in that same generation as like Dennis and Zach Algaze and Nicholas Sloan and even Colton Conroy, I think, although Colton might be a little
Patrick Goss.
Yeah. And they're players I remember who, they used to join tournaments and they would get the shit kicked out of them at the first round, and then they had to learn, right? And now, a lot of those guys I just mentioned are advancing on in the World Cup to the knockout stage, while players like Lerte and George Fry and Javier got the short end of the stick and are going home early. So it's really exciting to see. And there's a really, really deep field of players, competitive players, and you never know who might win these tournaments, man. It's just really stacked now. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I compare it to, I don't know if you watch golf or not, but I watch golf. I grew up loving Tiger Woods, and everyone was afraid to play Tiger Woods, and maybe that was like Eugene Debs or Tyson Norman. And now there's so many people who can win a golf tournament. And you mentioned Dennis Muxlow. I compare him to Sung J M. You may not even get this reference at all, but he plays literally every single golf tournament. He's at the end of the year, he's like in the top 5 in points just because he plays literally every single tournament. Well, if you play every tournament, you're going to, be consistent and have less off days or less like really bad performances. And so, playing more people, watching streams, joining tournaments, it can make a difference, especially when you get to these like high stress matchups because, and you can touch on this for maybe 30 seconds or so, but not every match is created equally. Now the really, really good players in this game, or like just professional athletes, not to compare yourself to professional athletes, but they can, zone in and treat it, just like any other game. But I mean, I'm guilty of this. Like I played you the other day in that college basketball tournament. I literally watched 3 of our old matches to prep. I did a practice match. I told a guy exactly what to do. My personal plan, like it worked. Like what I wanted to do the first 2 turns, worked for me. And then I still lost. So, all that pressure you put on yourself, it's just devastating sometimes. But at the end of the day, it is just a game, but we get to showcase in front of, our peers, which is really cool. So.
Right. And we have a lot more peers now. In group D, there's another name that we were just talking about, Zach Algaze. I remember in your predictions video, you said that this group was going to be chalk. It was going to be Adam, me, Tyler, and then Zach maybe would have a chance of pushing Tyler for the 3rd spot. So I was in this group. I was in the group chat. I'm aware of all the matches and how they went down, and it was very surprising what happened actually, and very, very interesting actually. So the very first match, I played Tyler, and Tyler played a really, really scrappy game and was able to kind of weird it up and force the end game kind of sooner than I would have liked. I had 1 peg in Texas, for example, but I knew I couldn't afford to spend any more money there because the end game was coming soon, and any money I spent in Texas was just going to be a waste of $200,000. So the game ended with 1 peg in Texas, and he forced a ballot, and it ended up on Wisconsin. I went for a Wisconsin steal at the end. 2 pegs got blocked, and because of that, he won. He beat me like 273 to 265 or something. So shocking results right out of the gate. Tyler Barola, the 3rd seed, beats the 1 seed. And then Zach beat Tyler, and Tyler beat Adam. So all of a sudden, Adam was in a really bad situation where Adam absolutely had to beat me and beat Zach in order to stay alive. And Zach, he had the game of his life and beat Adam like pretty badly. And it pretty much put Adam in a spot where he wasn't going to have a chance to advance. So it ended up being me, Zach, and Tyler ended up all tied with 1 loss, and they were all to each other. So it was one of those three-way tiebreaker situations. And I won in EVs because I beat Zach by a larger margin than I lost to Tyler.
Gotcha. And I know you were ranked what in the power rankings too?
Yeah, I was 2nd.
And Adam Montgomery was like 8 or so. He was in the top 10. 6th. I mean, Tyler Barola and Zach Algaze both beat both of you, or did you beat Zach?
So I beat Zach. Tyler beat me, but Zach beat Tyler and Adam.
That's pretty incredible right there.
and Tyler beat me and Adam.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So
yeah,
definitely
really good performances from those guys. So whoever they're matched up with in the knockout stage, look out.
Yeah, no, and actually, I think I got a sneak preview of where Zach is, but I don't know where Tyler is. But that'll be interesting to look at here pretty soon. Shout out to my girl Rebecca Gill. She's on my Team Brendan tournament. And she did get a win, so that's good. And she didn't make it past the group stage, but we'll get you the next round one of these times. So looking at Group E, which was my group, I will touch on that. So we had a friendly group chat among us. And, who I was really impressed with was Jeremy Cooper Sperber. He put on every single game he was in it. I'll admit to playing him late at night without a calculator and just kind of winging it. And I miscalculated, and he made a bold steal in the Old South and had Michelle Obama and had the inside track to AA, and I had no bonuses and had to really scrap it out against him. But he did come away with 2 wins. and he also beat Larry Costa. So Larry, Mr. World Cup. So Jeremy, on the up and up, but unfortunately for Gianfranco, he did not get a win. Larry struggled, but I will say that he has adapted some new strategies. He's not that reliable one pip in New York, clash, and then move on and take advantage of that and have New York access.
Right. The thing is after you move on from that, there's a really big learning curve and growth to learning how to handle other openings and how to adapt to any possible opening and what's the best counters to your opponent's openings and how to balance offense and defense. And what he used to do before with New York, California, sure, it was predictable, but at least it was simple and he knew exactly what he had to do, step-by-step process. And for the most part, he didn't have to put a whole lot of deliberation into his opening, right? Well, learning to play the different game, the Old South game, the swing states game, the balancing, the pivots, you're gonna lose a few matches along the way while you figure all that out. And I think Larry's he's a smart guy. He's sharp. He used to dominate the lounge. He'll figure it out, but there's some adjustment he's got to do.
For sure, but yeah, and even the game with me, where I think I had a crucial block early, and I had a pretty significant lead as far as cash. He still hung in there. But Nicholas Sloan, he did win 3 games, and he did beat me in the college basketball tournament. So I was really happy to kind of avenge that loss in the World Cup. Yeah.
He beat me too.
And then I won my first 4 matches, as did Dylan Hales lost to I believe it was Nicholas Sloan. Yeah, it was to Nicholas. And so going to the final match, I knew it already clinched a spot. And I'll admit to not reading the tiebreakers. So in my mind, I thought that I just had to keep it close with EV count, and that even if I lost, we had the same record, and I had a significant lead. And I mean, not that I didn't.
The first tiebreaker, the 2-player tiebreaker, is head-to-head match.
Yeah, which I just didn't look into it. Not that I didn't try to win, and Dylan definitely deserved it. He made a couple bold steals, and then on the ballot we had a clash in New Jersey, which it wasn't like a 1-pip clash, it was like a 6-pip and 7-pip clash, and that would have swung it either way. So but Dylan, he went undefeated in the he lost to Nicholas, but he made the RHL White House playoffs. Other than Nicholas, he went undefeated, and he earned a spot in the 16. I could see him being a player you don't want to play.
If I remember correctly, Dylan cracked the top 25 in the power rankings this time, after being a snub by my definition in the first couple of rankings. So Dylan's on the up and up. Congrats to him. Let's move on to the next group. This was really interesting. Tossin, Siraj, Brent. That looks like chalk. It looks like probably just the way you would have called it. Although
it is the way I called it.
But it wasn't as simple and straightforward as you would have imagined. They actually ended up in another 3-way tie situation. Siraj beat Tossin like first game of the tournament. Everybody was shocked. But then Brent beat Siraj. So for a while, Brent was undefeated. I think Brent was 4-0. And going into the last match, everybody played all their matches, all 5 matches, except the last one was Brent and Tossin had to play each other. And going into that, Brent was undefeated. Siraj had 1 loss, and Tossin had 1 loss. So it went Brent, Siraj, Tossin. But Tossin beat Brent, pulled him into a 3-way tie, and Tossin had the EV advantage in those 3 games. So that was just like a one Washington steal away for Brent, taking away Washington from Tossin all of a sudden being the 3rd seed and wrecking somebody's bracket.
Yeah. No, their hopes and dreams, but no, and there's some good players in that pool. Zach Wojcicki, he's pretty good. Aziz is an up-and-coming player, and
I've never played him.
Luke did not get a win, but good to see all those guys. Siraj is someone who I've not played in a very long time, but I've heard. I mean, he does have a pretty good track record against Tossin. But Brent was someone who I was had a bold prediction that he could even win the group in my prediction video.
So close.
Yeah, it was pretty close. That was one of the ones I nailed because I think I actually predicted Siraj to beat Tossin and Brent to win the group. So that was, I think I predicted Tossin, but I said there's a chance. That's probably the one I got the most right looking at it, to be honest.
Right.
But
hey, let's move on to the next group because I just realized that we're starting to run short on time. So the next one, Guillermo, Rishav, Sapun. I would have thought those three players going into it. Had no idea who to pick where, and it ended up being unpredictable and another three-way tie, and it looks like Guillermo wins the tiebreaker. All three of those players I look at as very dangerous, very unpredictable. Guillermo's really, really good in the openings. Rishav is versatile. He can beat you with a lot of different strategies. You never know. He might start Old South. He might start swing states. He might go town and gown and still beat you. And the Sapun is really, really good in the mid to end game. He's very patient. He can make you get into a situation where you don't know if you need to spend a lot of money on a defend. And if you do, then he doesn't go for it, then maybe you've just taken away all your money that you needed on the ballot. I call it a really patient style of play, and it's dangerous. He's a really strong player.
It's unorthodox. It's not. If you haven't played Sapun, then you don't know until you're in the grind.
Right. The best thing you can do against him is once you get a lead, you got to be the first one to flip the pressure, swing the pressure to him, because otherwise he's going to bring the pressure to you, and you don't want to get caught with him chasing and you running. You don't want to be in that position against him. He's really good at it. So good luck to whoever plays him in the first round. Oh wait, that's you.
Oh.
Ooh.
No, I have a pretty good track record against Stephon. But I am on an absolute cold streak right now. But he's one of the nicest guys in the lounge. I know that game will be streamed, so I look forward to
maybe I'll stream it.
Yeah, maybe he can.
All right.
That'd be good.
Next
quick shout out.
Group. Oh, go ahead.
DJ Ahmed. He's really improved. I look forward to seeing him in future tournaments. So just shout out to DJ. But yeah, moving on to Group H, I'll let you take it over. You said Troy gives you some fits. It looks like he gave the rest of the group some fits.
Troy and I, all stretching back to my very first tournament, Troy and I matched in the first round, and it was a glitch on the ballot. And I won the match, but it was a glitch and it was kind of uncertain. So we decided to make it a best of three and give me the first game. He won the second game on a quick ballot, and I won the third game on like a really close ballot. And that was the start of a long rivalry ever since then. Every time there's a tournament, we match, like a tournament in the app. We've matched up in a couple of like RHL and other tournaments as well. And my best estimate, and he agreed with this, is that all time we're like 6-6 or 7-6 against each other. It's really close, and I don't like playing him. He's one of those people I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do?
He makes you think.
So he won his group. That's not a surprise. Colton got second, which is a little bit surprising. He emerged from that really close pack of other contenders. And then fascinating what happened at the bottom of that group. So it should have been a four-way tie between those last four players, Richard, Conrad, Haseeb, and Daniel, because they all went 2 and 3. And had it been a four-way tie, then what would have happened is the first tiebreaker would be their records against each other. And Daniel and Conrad went 2 and 1 against the rest of the group. And Conrad beat Daniel head-to-head. So Conrad would have emerged from that group, except Daniel forfeited against Troy, which is a penalty, cost him a point. So he was no longer part of that tie, and then it became a three-way tie. And with that three-way tie, Richard won the tiebreaker based on the EVs. So RIP to Conrad. That's a tough way to lose. He lost because Daniel forfeited to Troy.
That's
doesn't
brutal.
really make much sense when you put it that way.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually predicted Conrad to make it. So that's a little stinger. But yeah, we'll go to the knockout.
Again. All right.
So we've got the full bracket here.
So what I'd like to do with the knockout stage, I'm gonna let you make all your predictions game by game, and we're gonna go through quick. And I'm either going to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down as to whether I agree or disagree with you.
Sounds good.
Don't pick yourself to win the whole thing. How about that?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not even picking myself to win the first round, so that I don't have to worry about that. So
all right. So you're picking Stephon?
I'm taking Stephon. I do think it'll be a close match. Here's the thing. You know, with Brendan Borman in high pressure situations, you either get really good or really bad. And while I no shot at David Robinson, I think that if I can beat Stephon, I would favor myself against David. I think that Stephon and Tossin just have a knack of making it to the end of these tournaments where it's just such large fields. Yeah. I mean, there are lots of great players. I'm going to go with the track record of Stephon. He can beat you in so many different ways.
Okay, I'm going to go this. Him. And then what about Stephon versus David? I would
take Stephon. I think David could win against either of us. Like you said, he's got a really good Michelle Obama. He's got a really good, he knows how to do that path. But Stephon can, or me, we're versatile. But I'm gonna go with Stephon to come out of that what do you call that trifecta? The three of us.
All right. Siraj and Richard Alfeld.
Siraj. I'm gonna go Siraj. I think that Richard.
Go ahead.
Yes, I think that Richard took a brief break from playing, and Siraj is just a little bit more versatile. I think that he also has just the knack of the moment of maybe kind of like you were talking about Stephon, picking your battles of funds. And I think that Siraj will come out.
Really what it is, he's still on his honeymoon vibes. Yeah, he's still coming down off of that high. I'll give it to Siraj as well. And then what about Siraj versus Daniel Smith?
Well, I always sleep on Daniel Smith. And
by the way, Daniel told me those two players never played each other. This will be their first matchup if that actually happens.
Yes, he did. He actually messaged me. He was so excited he beat George Fry, and I made that rival video, and they're a part of it. And so he always keeps me abreast of that situation. But I would say it's a coin flip. And I've been really negative to Siraj lately with my predictions and just leaving him out kind of lower in the power rankings. I'm going to take Siraj to advance past.
Okay. So we got Stephon and Siraj in the quarterfinals. Who you got there?
Give me Stephon.
I'm gonna go kind of sideways on that. I think it's a toss-up.
Yeah, I think either one could win. In a one game, if I had to put my life on it, then I'm probably not going to do that. I'm just going to quit the community and save my life. But no, I'd go with Stephon.
Right. So we got Stephon in the semifinals from that bracket. Moving on to the bottom part, we got Rishabh versus Nicholas Sloan.
This one's really tough because I don't have that much of a track record from playing Rishabh. I've only played him one time, and it was in my subscribers only tournament when he was like Barack Obama and I was like independent Bernie or something. So because I had to be a free candidate. So and Nicholas Sloan's he's a giant killer. He plays up to competition. Yeah. So
I'll go Rishabh.
You're gonna go Rishabh? I'm gonna go Nicholas. I'm gonna go Nicholas. And
all right, what about Nicholas and Bart?
I'm gonna go Bart on that one. I do think that Bart having that bye will help him. Just having to win one game. I think he should be favored against either Rishabh or Nicholas. I'd go Bart.
Bart makes his way deep in a lot of tournaments as well. All right. Now my part of the bracket, we got Colton Conroy versus Brent Cornwall.
So Colton Conroy is on my team. I drafted him. I should pick him, but I'm going to take Brent Cornwall here. I just feel like he's more steady. I think that Colton might be susceptible to either, a big steal or something like that. So I'm going to take Brent.
You got Brent versus like Jason Casey?
Casey? Yeah. Have you ever played him before?
Brent Cornwall?
Yes.
I actually played him last night or maybe yesterday morning in the tournament lobby. And we were both VP combos. I think I was Abe with a VP and he was Barack with a VP. I got swing. he tried to go AA through Old South. I won AA, and it kind of snowballed. But it was
yeah.
It was a close battle.
I think he's got the potential to beat you, but I would definitely take you 4 out of 5 times.
Well,
So
I think my record all time against him is 4-0. So.
Okay, well, there's that 5th time you gotta be worried about.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that was kind of eerie. So you'll take Jason?
I will take Jason in that matchup, and I think that you play Bart pretty well. I've actually seen you guys play several times. Bart and I play very similar games, and I think that your dominance over me has convinced me that you would dominate Bart also. So I'm gonna pick you to beat Bart.
The difference in my experience versus you and him is when Bart gets behind, he's more comfortable with it and patient, and it makes me have to worry about when to defend and when not to. And with you shoot yourself in the foot a lot by getting desperate and trying to make up for lost ground.
I think it depends. Normally, that's with African American, and I appreciate the feedback because and I know you can overcome that, but it's just one of those things.
I don't. Yeah, if it works, you're a genius.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But no, I definitely would say that if you had to play Stephon in the quarterfinals, semifinals.
Well, if you're picking me to beat Bart, then I would face Stephon in the semifinals, just like I did last World Cup.
And you won that last year?
No, Stephon beat me in the World Cup semifinal last time, and then he lost to Tossin in the final.
That's right. So let's bring it back like it's 2019. I'm gonna pick Stephon to beat Jason Cassie.
All right. So Stephon in the finals, and let's move on to the other half. I think that we're running close to the time limit that you had set. So
all good.
Let's go a little bit quicker through the matchups, more like a sentence or two. Rick and Trevor.
I will go Rick, but I think Trevor can keep it close.
I'll go with that too. And then Rick versus Dylan Hales.
I think those are the same kind of tiered players in my mind. They play very similar games. I'm gonna take Rick.
Same. Bryce Hawkins, Tyler Brola. I want to see that one.
I just met up with Bryce Hawkins. I don't know if you saw that in Nick's first kind of live meeting with 270 Loungers last week. He's a great guy, but I'm going to pick President Camacho.
I think Tyler's really scrappy towards the end of Bryce can scrap it up in the openings, and then I usually find a way to get past him. I don't know maybe if that wouldn't apply against other opponents, but Tyler's the person I see as being really scrappy towards the end game, and he just finds a way to stay in any match, and you can never really bury him.
This is not a negative, but I would call him Stephon light. Like he's
okay, but you have to run. You have to sprint across the finish line with him. You don't turn around and look. You don't Usain Bolt it.
You know what? And honestly, that next matchup with Tyler Brola and Tossin, I think that's a coin flip. I think that just the way that he plays. I think that Tossin has his game down, obviously, to a T. With
Tyler's good. I'll take Tossin.
Yeah, I would take Tossin also, but I would not be shocked if Tyler beat him. If Bryce beat him, I would be shocked. But I hope that Bryce makes a run at it. So I'd pick Tossin also.
Tossin and Rick.
Give me Tossin. I think Rick's going to be shark bait. Ooh, ah.
I see what you did there. Okay. Just keep swimming on here. Jeffrey and Richard Gadd.
Another duo that are, in my mind, very similar. I've been impressed with Richard, his performances lately against top-tier players, including he finished second in the group. I'm going to take Richard.
It's a toss-up for me. Either way, I take Guillermo in the next round.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think Guillermo is someone who might get a little cute and do a steal or something, kind of maybe he doesn't have to. If he plays against Jeff, I think that he would win. I think Richard could give him. Richard makes you think a little bit. Maybe you've had better success against Richard than some other folks, but I'll agree with you. I'll take Guillermo.
Yeah. Guillermo's really strong in the opening. He usually, at least against me, always opens with swing states, and against me lately, he always wins that swing state battle. And then he pivots first and punishes me. And he's beat me 3 out of the last 5 times we played, something like that, including a ACC tournament match in the college basketball tournament. Okay, Zach Algaze, Eric York.
I tell you what, Zach Algaze is on fire, and I'm still taking Eric York.
Yeah.
Eric York is one of the most consistent players in the lounge, just like George Fry. He plays on his terms, and that's going to be a heck of a second round match against Troy, no matter who wins. But I'll take Eric.
And I'll take Troy in a close one against Eric York.
I'm going to take Eric, and I will. I just watched those two play. I know that Troy's kind of trying to decompress after his very stressful and really emotional high winning the RHL. Obviously, Troy could win the whole thing, but I think that Eric will squeak out the game against Troy to advance to the quarterfinals.
What about Eric and Guillermo?
So I would want to pick Guillermo here, but for the sake of my bracket, I am legitimately worried that Guillermo could lose that first round. So I'm going to I think it's a coin flip. I think I'll stick with Eric.
Okay. So you're basically saying out of the whole field, you think Eric York has the best chance at going through, but maybe necessarily in that one matchup, you're a little less sure?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. So then we're going to have Eric York versus Tossin in the semifinal.
That one, so that is like the master and the pupil. I know Tossin, he always, anyone up for a game?
I think Eric would present that characterization.
Yeah, hello, anyone up for a game? And for a while, he and I played every single day for like a month straight. And then he moved on to somebody else. And as he learned how to slaughter me every single time. Eventually, he got to Eric, and Eric is one of the few players that gives Tossin a really competitive game every single time. It is hard to bet against Tossin, but I'm going to take Eric. I'm going to put my thumbprint on this bracket prediction. I hope Tossin proves me wrong, because Tossin is one of my best friends inside the lounge. And this hopefully will put a chip on his shoulder, but I'm going to take Eric.
All right. So you've got Stephon and Eric in the final. Who would you have in that one?
Oh, boy. Well, how would that – so I think that would be a very kind of low spin, duke it out, battle, methodical match. I would take –
like a double juke kind of move? Juke kind of game?
Like a fake Old South, go swing, go back to Old South. Kind of
right. One of those games where it's turn 11 and there's only one bonus.
Yeah, and in those games, I tell you, Stephon is very, very dangerous. Not to be a hypocrite and hedge, I think whoever leaves going to the ballot probably would win. They both are very excellent in-game players. But gun to my head, give me Stephon Leonage to come home with the World Cup title.
For sure. So I like most of your picks. A couple major ones that I disagreed with you on. I would have had probably Eric losing to Guillermo, although nothing against Eric, but Guillermo's just really improved. He's one of the players I'm looking of. I'm going to have Guillermo against Tossin. I think that's a toss-up, but for symmetry's sake, I'm going to go with Tossin and Stephon in the final. Again, a rematch of the last time. And 269 to 269. However you want to play that out. Popular vote or state count or whatever we're talking about in the group chat.
Yeah. No, it's a crazy draw, and like you said, it could very easily, even if all the new players and everything that's going on, that'd be actually kind of crazy if there was a rematch.
Yeah. Whatever happens, it's going to be fun. Whoever wins it is going to be very deserving. This is shaping up to be, was obviously a very tough bracket to make it through. It might not carry the weight of the RHL final just because the RHL final was such a long time coming. But whoever wins this is going to be extremely well deserving, and whoever wins it is going to warrant, I think, a shooting up in the power rankings, or if it's tossing, I don't know if you can get much higher, but can we get much higher?
Yeah. No, I appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate you joining this video and your insight into this great tournament. The lounge is a better place with Jason Casey in it, so I appreciate
and I'm not stirring the pot.
I appreciate everything you do.
Can I get one last cameo from my dog in here? So she's about to have her birthday in a couple of days. Vicky.
Yeah, for sure. So your I Got You Day is coming up. You said the 28th?
She'll do anything for a Scooby snack.
There you go.
All right. Well, I hope I will be back to stream a couple of matches from this bracket for you guys. And in the meantime, hey, I appreciate you having me on the stream and letting me take part in your YouTube channel for the first time. We'll catch you next time.
One more thing, and if you can send me some that Lounge Legends, I'd like to make a Lounge Legends Jason Casey video. You can check that out on the channel.
You asked me to do that, and I told you I would by the end of that day. But what I really meant was by the end of that year.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
So. I'm gonna keep that promise.
Yeah.
Right, thanks, man.
But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video, and until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next 270 video.